You're welcome. Now, the Bank of Ghana, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has given the firm assurance that the recent sharp depreciation of the cedi is coming to an end. He has therefore warned persons cashing in on the challenges facing the local currency that their days are numbered. George Rafi has more.
The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, maintained that apart from the grounded reasons for the cedi's depreciation, activities of speculators have also contributed to this challenge.
We think that the exchange has overshot its long-run level, and when that happens, it can only appreciate. So those that are speculating on the cedi, I think that they should be aware that the central bank thinks that the cedi has overshot its medium-term levels, and therefore we think that we can only see some appreciation in the next few quarters.
The chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee has also been talking about measures to build up more gold reserves rather than just dollar cash.
Bought over 600 kilograms of Dory gold. We are in the process of fulfilling all the due diligence that the certified refineries in the world look out for. We are quite sure that in the next month we would be able to export the Dory gold that we have.
The governor has also rejected arguments that the current inflation rate hike is a supply challenge issue.
There are the supply side issues, but we are also looking at the second round effects of oil price adjustments, transportation price adjustments, and how all of that is influencing inflation expectations.
Dr. Addison, however, admitted that these actions would affect credit extension to businesses, but that should be seen as a short-term measure that would help bring about the needed stability of the Ghana cedi and check inflation rate hikes.
Let's gauge the performance of the cedi as we're joined by Courage Boti of, Data Bank. Courage, we're grateful that you could join us. You've heard the central bank's governor make very, strong statement against the issues of speculation, but he's also very confident that the rate at which the cedi is depreciating will be over soon. Your response to this session?
Well, good afternoon to your listeners. It will definitely slow down at some point. I think the most important thing now is managing expectations and sentiments on the market. That is the first step towards killing the speculative pressures. And I think the talks emanating from cabinet meeting over the weekend and then the monetary policies decisive action yesterday are all steps in the right direction. I think the talk about government willing now to tighten expenditure and even review some of the priority programs and potentially deepening the expenditure cut beyond the 20% that was earlier announced are all steps in the right direction. I had also plans in place to bring in some $2 billion consistent with the plan the finance minister laid out earlier, that given their lack of access to the international commercial markets this year, they might resort to some syndicated funding and some loan agreement with bilateral and multilateral partners. Understand processes are in place to rake in some $2 billion, which this news alone, if it filters through the market, should arrest some of the edge or the sentiment that are actually fueling speculation at the moment. And so I think the conversations are right, and obviously the depreciation will slow at some point. Hopefully this is the start of that process.
Great, and we'll see how that goes. Courage Boti, grateful that you could join us. He's with Data Bank, an economist and researcher in that regard. We'll still stay with the policy rate because barely 24 hours since it was increased to 17%, business owners, especially budding entrepreneurs, are anxious about its effect on the access to cheap loans. We know that the Bank of Ghana has justified the increase, citing the cedi's free fall and the rise in inflation. But how can young startups navigate this monetary intervention? Sheriff Gali is CEO of the Chamber of Entrepreneurs, and he joins me on this. Sheriff, grateful that I could, be with us. First of all, tell us the Chamber's official response to the new policy rate of 17%.
All right, thank you very much, Charles, and good afternoon to all your viewers. As a chamber, our official response is that the 200 base point increment is too high, and it looks a bit harsh because as it stands now in the economy, we are borrowing at about 35%. And imagine the policy rate has been increased by 250 base points, and that's about 17%. We believe and we understand that we are not in normal times. Things are very hard. Our economy is not stable. So the central government that is responsible for managing the currency will come out with certain policies to be able to stop the policy, the CEDI from falling against the dollar. But then the increment is a bit harsh, and I'm sure if you care to know, is one of the would I say the biggest increase as far as history is concerned. So we as a chamber was of the view that in as much as we might need a little bit of increment in the policy so that we can be able to sustain, we are hoping that at the end of the day, the central bank should have done at least 100 base point increment, maybe around 7%, 8%, so that at the end of the day, it translates to increase in access to loans or cost of loan in the market. But then that would be a bit reasonable. So the 250 base point is a bit harsh. Yeah.
But how was the chamber navigating entrepreneurs through this monetary policy?
So first of all, on issues like this, what we do is to educate our entrepreneurs on the increment and to let them know if you are planning to access a loan in the market, this is what you should be expecting. Will you be able to service that loan? And then you are advised, you are guided before you can go in for those loans. But as it stands now, I am afraid to tell you that it will be very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the startups and those are even the growth stage, to be able to go in for this, because within where we are, look at our neighbors. Ghana has been the highest with respect to cost of borrowing. And now we have an increment of 17% to the policy rate. Who knows? We might be paying, or we might be borrowing at 50%. Maybe let's wait and see what happens next week. What the adjustment will translate. Who knows? We will be paying or borrowing at 50%. So it will be very difficult for small businesses to be able to access credit because of this, the increment in interest rate. In as much as the central government wants us to understand that this will boost investor interest and let them, capital owners to put their money in the economy, but it's never going to be easy for small businesses. So for us as a chamber, we will have to educate our people and guide them so they can take very responsible financial decisions. Yeah.
Indeed. Let me also bring in Selassie Jukuno. She is an entrepreneur and founder of Delcy Empire. Selassie, how are entrepreneurs like yourself holding up as the Bank of Ghana increases the policy rate to 17%? You've heard from Sheriff about the impact on loans, but how are you guys holding up?
Good afternoon to your listeners, and pleasure to be here. Honestly, the news came to us as a deep cut because I don't know personally how we're going to manage that difficult stuff, because you know that increase in the policy rate just means that we're going to be having more expensive loans. There's going to be a slower business growth for small businesses like myself and others. And obviously that's going to be affecting our cash flows. We'll be having diminishing cash flows. Our profits are also going to be diminishing. So I really do not know how we're going to be able to survive this, because then it will be very difficult for us to access loans. Even as it is now, startups are unable to access financing, unable to access credit because of the high interest rates. And so this increase in policy rates is just going to kick us out of the whole credit assessment or being able to access credit. For me as a small business, the first thing that will come to mind will be to cut costs, because going to the banks is not going to be an option for me as a small business owner, because obviously I cannot afford the credits. And so the first thing for me will be to see how best I can cut on cost, especially operation cost or production costs in other cases. And then obviously to increase prices. I don't know how we're going to be able to survive in the business if we don't increase our prices.
And definitely it's really going to impact on the very people that you employ at your enterprise. But also I'm quite curious to understand the alternatives of sourcing credits. I mean, what kind of alternatives are you exploring, especially when you're making me understand once again that you cannot afford bank loans?
Well, at this point, I might have to be looking out for grants, or I might have to be looking out for, small soft loans from friends and family, or from a social group or something, or a savings and loan, because obviously credit is not going to be an option for me. And so I would have to start looking out for grants or start looking out for crowdfunding options for my small business.
That's quite an innovative, alternative, if you ask me. But let me bring you in once again, Sheriff. Economists have commended the central bank for this brave monetary policy decision. In fact, they're stating that even though it's going to be having a toll on entrepreneurs, like you've rightly stated, inflationary pressures and that of the city's depreciation will be dealt with. Speaking from your perspective as a leader in the, entrepreneurship community, how do you respond to most of these economists?
Right. So, Charles, this is where it boils down to the fact that what do we really want to achieve? Yes, there is a need for us to stabilize our CEDI. Is very important so that it doesn't continue falling as it's doing against the major trading currency dollar. But then, are we conscious about the small businesses that are growing that need this capital market to be able to borrow, to innovate, to be able to scale up, grow, and employ? Like Selassie is saying, she will not be able to do much, and she might not even be able to open up to employ because she's not even getting capital anywhere to inject into the business. So you see, in as much as central bank is trying all they can to be able to stabilize or make the capital market interesting so that the fixed income, especially fixed income market, where investors will keep their money in the country and invest, indirectly pushing more CEDI into the economy to stabilize against the dollar. It's a good idea. But the question is that what then happens to the small businesses that are also striving? Because what you are doing, how many of our industries even have that access to be able to go into the fixed income market and invest?
So what must be done? What must be done in the medium to long term?
So what must be done here is that the rate at which it has been increased is too much. The 200 base point, 17% is too much. I was expecting something like a 6% or a 7%. At least it's marginable. As entrepreneurs, we understand the state we are. We can cope with it. And, the increment in the cost of loans wouldn't be that much. So,
but of course, we'll have to clarify that. We'll have to clarify, Sharif, that the policy rate actually has been increased by 2.5% from from 14 to 17% as we know it. So it's not that it's been increased by 17%. It's been increased to 17% by a margin of 2.5%. But I do understand and feel your pain, especially when you've rightly stated the impact it's going to have on entrepreneurs moving forward. We'll see how that plays out. And of course, we shall keep, falling back on you for some analysis on this development. But Sharif Galif, we're grateful for your time. He's the CEO of the Chamber of Entrepreneurs. Earlier on, we also spoke with Selassie, an entrepreneur who very much so explained to us the impact on her job as a young entrepreneur. You're still watching the marketplace. Let's still stay with matters regarding credit, because POC's Vocational Training Institute has bemoaned the lack of access to flexible loans and other forms of funding for trainees and entrepreneurs who have invaluable skills to add to Ghana's law. The Chief Executive Officer of the Institute, Roline Abnapokua, fears the situation could derail the country's attempt to get the youth into vocational training. Here's more in this report.
The ceremony saw 24 graduates displaying their creativity through various outfits, including wedding gowns. Despite acquiring these skills, access to finance and equipment are among challenges confronting trainees and entrepreneurs. Chief Executive Officer of POC's Vocational Training Institute, Roline Abnapokua, is pleading with government to assist such institutions with flexible loans.
When you go to the bank for loan, the interest is quite high, and the process is cumbersome. So the government should come to our aid, especially with the entrepreneurs, so that they can give us flexible loans that we can purchase machines and other equipment that we need for our production and for our business. I'm Because for me, I had a lot of challenges. As you can see, I've been in this for almost 22 years. It has not been easy. And I would say it's because always I encourage myself that no matter what, I still need to push because I have the talent. Most people start and they are not able to sustain it because they don't get any support from the government. They don't get any support to expand even their businesses.
Member of Parliament for Ashaman constituency, Ernest Nogbe, is calling on government to prioritize technical and vocational education and training, TVET, by making it free instead of senior high school. The MP then gave 10 sewing machines to Post Vocational Training Institute, with 5 additional machines to be given to the best 5 graduates.
The government should also bear in mind that after graduation, definitely they are going to establish themselves. So they create that kind of financial facilities, small loans like Maslog, etc., with a less interest rate for them to access and also create that business for themselves. If I were the president, it is rather important for us to make TVET free other than free SHS, because this is just after training you have readily direct job. When you complete SS, what are you going to do now? You are now going to wait to enter into the university. The university is not free.
Overall best student Rosemary Agbesi is asking government to help persons who want to enroll in such institutions financially.
Not just a fashion designer, this handle works, a lot of things. So all I urge the government to do, it should give them the support. They should give them what they need to become what they want, the scholarship, everything. They should help us. Being in a vocational school doesn't mean that we don't know anything. If you are in a vocational school, then you are blessed because you end up becoming what you want in the future.
Meanwhile, Ghana Enterprise Agency says it is migrating all apprentices to entrepreneurs under the Apprentice to Entrepreneurs program, which will offer technical, management and entrepreneurship training, as well as linking them to sources of funding.
Let's now delve into matters of aviation, because the Kotoka International Airport has been named the best airport in Africa for 2021 by size. We're looking at 2 to 5 million passengers in that year in review. The award was based on a survey conducted by the Airports Council International to solicit the views of travelers on their airport experiences. The airport has been the winner under the same category since 2019. But what existing threats could affect Ghana's ranking in 2022? Sean MENDIS is an aviation expert and joins me for more. Sean, grateful that I could, join me. Let's begin with how we have fared the Airport Company Limited, as we can see on the screens in our graphics, where we get a very good appreciation of how the Kotoka International Airport fared in the course of 2021. You can see there that in 2021, the domestic passengers increased. We could really see a shoot up in the green margins as compared to 2020, the heat of COVID-19, and even despite 2019 when we now discovered COVID. So it's quite an appreciable performance there from the Kotoka International Airport. But there are threats, Sean. There are threats that could really impact our performance this time around. Share some of them with us.
Thanks, Charles. Yes, as you point out, it's been very interesting to see the development of traffic at Kotoka International Airport. I think the award that they're receiving is very indicative of what passengers appreciate about the airport. They've been receiving this award since the new Terminal 3 opened, and obviously passengers appreciate the experience there. However, one threat to continuing to maintain this is that the fact that the growth in the market right now is coming from domestic traffic. And almost 40% of the total traffic in 2021 was from domestic passengers. Now, these passengers are not actually using this new facility, the facility which is the one that's leading to their awards. And as that proportion continues to grow, you're going to see people who are turned off from a suboptimal experience in some of the regional airports in Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi, Wa, and so forth, which are not quite up to the same standard. So I think that, one of the threats which they're going to face is that they're going to need to move this, their focus away from just on Kotoka International Airport into improving the passenger experience at some of these domestic airports as well. But one really critical thing, and I think this is going to be the biggest threat they're going to face during 2022, is going to be the ease of travel into Ghana. And right now, I think the main thing which is depressing the traffic, international traffic, from making a full recovery into Ghana is the cost of the testing regime. And, for a tourist who's considering Ghana versus some of the other countries in Africa or even in the sub-region, the extra $150 that a tourist has to pay for their COVID testing upon arrival at Accra Airport, despite being vaccinated, despite having done a PCR test in their home country, is quite prohibitive. And Ghana is losing traffic as a result of this. I've heard stories that there's likely to be a review of this in the near future, and I can only just join the chorus of people urging government to review this and at least make it a lot easier to facilitate travel into Ghana by business executives, by tourists, by the diaspora coming back in order to boost the traffic numbers as we are now beginning to see the end of the COVID pandemic.
Indeed, and we've even seen that of Nigeria take the lead, especially when they are now focusing on unvaccinated passengers. But walk us through other threats that exist, especially when we're still having situations with a single African, airspace.
Well, I think, Ghana has positioned itself very well in terms of being a preferred gateway to Africa for a number of international airlines. In fact, I believe that, especially in West Africa, I can't speak for some of the airports in Southern and Eastern Africa, but in West Africa, Accra is the #1 airport in terms of the number of airlines choosing to serve it. So definitely Ghana has established its place as the preferred gateway into the region, but it needs to continue having liberal policy making, business-friendly policy making to encourage these airlines to continue operations in Ghana and to consolidate operations in Ghana. So as you mentioned, the single African air transport market, Ghana has embraced this. Ghana continues to have solid policy making in terms of allowing African airlines to have traffic rights from Ghana to other African countries, as well as to encourage Ghanaian carriers like Africa World Airlines and Passion Air to continue developing their domestic networks and their regional networks.
Sean, as always, it's refreshing to have you on the show. Grateful for your analysis there. Sean MENDIS is an aviation expert, helping us with the threats that could really hamper our performance this time around when it comes to Africa's airspace performance. That's how we end this edition of The Marketplace, though. I'm Charles Ayete. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.